All right, so I want you to imagine you are on a backpacking trip in Europe, and specifically in the part of the Eurozone that uses the euro. So not all countries in Europe use the euro, the major currency of Europe, um, but many do. So you are backpacking around rather unwisely with this amount in your backpack, 15,250 euro. And perhaps rather unwisely again, you're about to go to Moscow. So make sure to check your backpack for any contraband, and also be aware that in Russia, they accept only rubles. RUB is the currency code for that. So if you are going to move on over to Russia and travel there, you need to convert your 15,000 euros into rubles. So the first thing you need to do for that is to figure out the exchange rate. And as talked about elsewhere, oftentimes things are not priced directly to one another. So you may not find an exchange rate for euros to rubles. More likely, what you'll find in practice is an exchange rate of the USD to the euro, and separately an exchange rate of the ruble, RUB, to the USD. So most of the time, everything's priced against the USD. And what you need to figure out if you are going to translate euros into rubles is therefore the ruble to euro cross rate. The cross rate is the calculation you need to do. And so the first step in that process, remember it's kind of this 1-2 step process, is to take your money in your backpack, the 15,250 euros, and figure out what that is worth in terms of USD. So if the exchange rate is €1 buying more USD, then I know I'm going to need to multiply if I'm going to go from euro to USD to get that bigger number. That exchange rate of 1.0578, that's the number I'm going to multiply by USD per euro. And that gives me $16,000. So a little bit more in terms of USD because of that kind of ratio there in the exchange rate where €1 is buying more USD. So that's in dollars. Now I take this other piece of the puzzle and translate those dollars into rubles. And so that's step 2. What is $16,000, 131.45 cents to be precise, in terms of rubles? So if I'm going from dollars to rubles, that's a big step up in terms of ratio. So I know that I'm going to get a bigger number. I want to end up with a bigger number. Again, I'm going to multiply 16,131 times this exchange rate of 59.396 rubles to the dollar. That gives me a value in rubles of 958,000. 958,000 rubles is what I end up with. So I translate from my backpack at the exchange rate using these two numbers, 15,000 euros to this many rubles. Now, just considering political events and stuff, what has happened recently between Russia, the Russian currency and the rest of the USD is that, well, you see this sometimes with different countries' currencies, and what happens is sometimes they institute something called capital controls. We'll talk about capital controls more in subsequent chapters. But what this is sort of a government's forced conversion of an exchange rate of currency at a specific exchange rate. And so if I go to the borders of Russia with my euros and, I convince someone to give me rubles for them, if it's an official authority like a bank, the Russian government is going to say, hey, you specifically have to translate that at 59.39 or whatever rate that they decide. This is a form of capital control and government intervention where they kind of specifically tell you what the exchange rate is. And I either have to do that, or I find, an individual Russian citizen who's just willing to kind of do a transaction with me at our own agreed upon rate, kind of on the side. So sort of a black market situation. But you see this with some countries. So the US, for example, does not institute capital controls. It just lets the currency be decided based on, whoever wants to trade. Like if one party wants to trade dollars in terms of Japanese yen, the US government is not going to get involved and tell you what exchange rate has to occur. But some governments at certain periods of time will try to sort of force conversion at a specific rate. And the efficacy of it depends on, the specifics of that situation. But those are called capital controls.